Welcome to Living the Smarter Science of Slim, where we provide a scientifically proven lifestyle for long-term health and fat loss by eating more and exercising less, but smarter.
Eat smarter, exercise smarter, live better. I am so ready for that.
Hey everyone, Jonathan Bailor back with another bonus Smarter Science of Slim podcast. Truly a treat today. We are joined with this is breaking news, folks. You've heard it here first. The 2013 IDEA Personal Trainer of the Year. He's the Director of Athletics at Fitness Quest 10, and he is just a world-renowned human performance specialist, motivational speaker, author, educator. He's all over the internet. He's got over 20,000 hours of coaching and training. And one of the reasons I think you're really going to like what he has to say is he's really focused, and I just cannot wait to dig into this with him, on what he calls the high performance household. So looking at this holistically, not only from an individual, but from a familial perspective. 2013 IDEA Personal Trainer of the Year, Brett Klika. Welcome to the show, sir.
Hey, thanks a lot, Jonathan. That was quite the introduction.
Well, Brett, I wanted to have you on the show because so often, and I hope I don't offend anyone here, but sometimes, my mother used to always say this to me, that she sometimes thought that the pursuit of health and fitness is selfish. Like you're spending time preparing food versus doing something else. Or you're spending time exercising versus spending time with your kids. But what you really show is how this is a family thing. This is a really selfless thing. Can you tell us about that high performance household concept?
Well, just to sort of answer that, and I think that's a resistance I get. I think that same concept, no matter where I'm at in the world, I speak for different organizations and in the fitness industry, and no matter where I go in the world, a common resistance is that, well, I don't have time to exercise. I have a family to raise. Or they think it's some vanity pursuit to go exercise, like exercise is some sort of luxurious novelty that is reserved only for the vain or something like that. And many, many years ago, you didn't have to think about getting exercise. I mean, your family, in order to live, it was a physical interaction. I mean, everyone in the family had a physical demand of them just to stay alive. And those chores or those daily tasks were divided up, and it was just this integrated model of physical fitness. And thank God that technology has come through, and we don't have to. I wouldn't be a fan, I don't think, of walking a quarter mile to get my water in the morning. But and that's the way it used to be, and now we have to realize that's not part of our life. But in order to function, in order to be healthy, we all, whether it's kids or adults, we all need to be active. And the activities of daily living now do not require us to be that active. We get to work by a car. We get up in the morning. People farm our food for us. They create everything. We walk to a refrigerator. We throw it in the microwave. We don't have to gather wood. We're not burning stove. We're essentially just sort of there, and stuff happens for us. So physical activity has become a necessity that we have to add to our day because it's not just part of our natural day. It doesn't matter if you're a mom or dad or a child. Now, where I sort of came up with the high-performance household concept is that, obviously, when I was going through school in the 90s and going to college in the later part of the 90s, it was all about, this adult fitness. It was starting to look like an epidemic. We were really starting to see the early seeds of the health and wellness epidemic we're seeing with our adults now and the strain on the healthcare system. They didn't really talk about kids and their concerns all that much. It wasn't as big of a concern as it is today. And so it's pretty much just focusing on adults. So for years it was adults, what they need to do to get fit, and then there's been a sort of an emergence of this youth obesity issue and this youth concerns about inactivity and lack of health. But it's been addressed almost separately, and that's something that I was heir to when I started to address both issues. But then I really realized as I'm talking to parents concerned about their kids, the parents are telling me, oh, yeah, well, my kid eats terribly, my kid doesn't exercise, my kid doesn't do this, my kid doesn't do this. I'm looking at the parent, and I'm seeing that the parent's extremely overweight. The parent's activity patterns are probably not what they should be. And then I'm thinking, well, if the kid eats poorly, where is an 8-year-old getting bad food? How's an 8-year-old getting to fast food? How's an 8-year-old getting soda? I mean, they don't have a job. They don't have a car. They're not. And so it's being facilitated. So I started to realize, if we're going to address this issue and make an impact on the health of our nation, it's got to be the household. It's got to start at home. It can't be farmed out to, it's the school's fault, it's the government's fault, it's fast food companies' fault, it's anybody else's fault. It has to start in our household, because thank God we live in a country with a lot of choices. And that's part of what makes us us, is that freedom. But we need to start making better choices as a family versus to hoping that someone else makes our choices for us. And that's really where that concept came from.
Well, and Brett, what can we do though? Because it seems like sometimes the family is such a time sensitive and stressed environment oftentimes that this just it's like a firefighting dynamic. So you're always just trying to put out fires, and a lot of when it comes to physical fitness, when it comes to smarter eating, these are preventative things. These are what Stephen Covey would call quadrant 2 activities. They're not urgent, but they're extremely important. So how do we bring urgency and drive this actually happening?
Well, it depends on the why. I mean, really, at the end of the day, any action is driven by the why. And if me as a family member, me as a parent, as an influencer in my house, if I realize that my family is not healthy, if I realize I'm not healthy, my kids aren't healthy, there's some pretty powerful whys in the statistics. I mean, in the future, it's by the year 2030, we're looking at 50 to 60% of our adults being obese, not overweight, obese. 50% of adults being obese, and with obesity carries extremely heightened risk factors for disease. Well, if you're an adult and you're looking at your children, do you want to be there for your grandchildren? Do you want your kids or your grandkids to take a day off of school to come to your funeral? And those are some pretty serious questions, but that's something that we need to think about. And it's also, what type of life do you really feel as we're leading our kids down this path? Do you as a parent or an influencer feeling that you are leading down the right path when there's no form of nutrition, when there's no form of health being the centerpiece of the house? And in the time-strapped current society, it is getting out to, quote, exercise. I mean, that is if I said, hey, everyone needs to exercise for an hour and a half a day, that's crazy. We're commuting, we're cooking, we're taking kids here and there. But we do need to consider as a family addressing physical fitness. It might not be a workout. It might be a walk that you take as a family after dinner. It could be just looking for those opportunities to engage physically, going for a bike ride, going out and tossing the Frisbee. Part of that is really thinking about what are your priorities in your house. And as a parent and as a sort of an influencer in the home, if you decide that health and wellness is a priority, which that is a major priority. If you don't have your health, you don't have anything. If you have money, if you have wealth, if you have material, if you have all of that, if you don't have your health, you literally have nothing. You'll not have your life. So it's deciding as a family what do you stand for in regards to that. And everything we do in life is a hierarchy. In the adult world, everything's a hierarchy of putting things in priority. It's a hierarchy of priorities. We will do what we prioritize. So if we decide that we're going to prioritize health, that doesn't mean that all of a sudden we only eat organic food and we only shop at the one farm that's 50 miles away in a valley that has this period. It doesn't mean all that. It means that we're going to make as many decisions as we can on a daily basis to facilitate health through the family. So it's a matter of what's your language towards health and wellness. What are you going to purvey? If if I'm raising a child and my child looks to me and my attitude towards exercise or even going for a walk or anything physical is, oh, well, I'm overweight, so I have to exercise. This is my punishment for living the life I've wanted to live. My punishment is exercise or physical activity. And then I also see on the nutrition side, with the skinny children and the overweight parent, the skinny child is eating candy and eating fast food and sees mom and dad have to change their diet. And mom and dad say, oh, yeah, well, I have to eat this. You got to eat that yummy food because you're skinny. I have to eat this because I'm fat. I've heard that in my life. I've seen it. And so a child is now starting to say, oh, my goodness, that with that language and that attitude, the child's starting to say, oh, well, exercise is punishment for being bad, essentially. I mean, it's exercise is punishment, and eating healthy is also punishment. Mom and dad have to eat all these fruits and vegetables. I get to eat fast food and chips and all that because I'm skinny. I hope I don't have to be punished for having to eat that healthy food, and that's the attitude. So something as simple in our time-strapped day, in our money-strapped society, and all of these limitations we have, something as simple as really looking at the language and the attitudes that you employ towards exercise and movement, in addition to nutrition, can significantly impact the entire household. I mean, what we say manifests, our attitudes and our behavior, but even almost more importantly, our children and those people in our family that we have a lot of influence over.
That focus on language, Brett, is so powerful, and not one that I had thought of before. When we present to our children and even just people around us this concept and this vocabulary and this attitude that health is a punishment, that health is negative, that is poison. I mean, it is literally poison. And when we think about it, it's wrong. Health is not something to be avoided. In fact, health is miraculous. And it seems that if health seems like a burden, maybe we're going about trying to be healthy incorrectly.
I think that's a great point right there. It's what the media has sort of forced into our idea of health has become these fatless, these ripped, fatless 8-pack models that walk around and they are on the cover of magazines and it requires. I've heard this a lot. Well, I just can't afford to be healthy. I can't afford to go to the gym, so I can't be healthy. Well, we didn't have gyms for 10,000 years, and man looked pretty good. I was in Europe last summer. I've seen the statues. I don't know that the modern physique would have inspired too many of Michelangelo's work back in the day. And so people in the day, they would actually get out and just interact with the world. And that's all you need to do is be physical throughout the course of the day. I'm not saying that you need to go to a gym every day. Something as simple as going for walks, parking further away from the grocery store, finding opportunities to not be sitting and zoning out on the television or sitting and being idle. Most adults will spend all day at work being idle and then come home to be idle, to rest from being idle. And kids see that. Kids see that pattern. And if they see mom and dad relax by coming home and having alcohol or pills or whatever it is, well, how do you think the kids are going to learn to react and learn to relax when they're older? They see mom and dad come home and go for a walk or go outside and, hey, let's go throw the Frisbee, let's go to the park, let's go check out a sunset, we walk down the street. That's what they're going to form. And right now, all too often, and we kind of laugh at it in our society, but it's getting past that point of laughing. When that's what kids think. Relaxation is a bottle of wine, or relaxation, the only way to relax is medicine. And that's the alternative we're offering them, and that's what we're modeling them in the household. And that's problematic, and we're seeing that become more and more problematic.
The phrase "we're past the point of laughing about this" is one that's profound, and I don't want to get too down, but you earlier made a point about the why, being our lives are all a function of priority, and why is what drives that priority. And recently I was doing a bit of research, and I read Dr. David Ludwig, who's the director of the New Balance Foundation of Obesity Prevention at the Boston Children's Hospital, who reported, so the direct quote, "Obesity is such that this generation of children could be the first basically in the history of the United States to live less healthful and shorter lives than their parents." Now, Brett, I can't imagine a more compelling why in the world. It seems that if there's one thing a parent wants for their child and nothing else, is simply to live a healthier and happier life than they did. And for the first time in history, that if we keep doing what we're doing is not going to happen.
Well, and I'm familiar with that quote and that line of research, and just think about, I mean, what he's saying is, to expect this generation, many parents will outlive their children. And that's beyond disturbing. And that's when we go to form priorities in the household, it's important that is the centerpiece of the why, because that will motivate behavior. Losing 10 pounds to look good in a swimsuit, or a lot of those probably won't be drivers enough. Those won't be big enough whys to impact an entire family's behavior. They may, but for the most part, it's not. And I think that's a great point, and it's an eye opener. And we need to really open our eyes and listen, and let that drive our behavior.
Brett, one other way to look at this, which again, I don't want to turn this into like a tearjerker podcast, but because I had some young members of my family who struggled with their weight, and one of the things that broke my heart more than anything is, and this is going to sound a little bit silly, but certainly no parent would like facilitate or even allow, for lack of better terms, their child to smoke, because we know how bad smoking is for the child physically. But smoking really doesn't have an emotional toll on you. It's not like it scars you emotionally to smoke, but it does certainly scar you physically, and it's bad, and we shouldn't do it. However, ask any overweight child what it's like to be overweight. Like, ask a 300-pound 14-year-old girl what her daily experience is like at school. Ask a chubby 6-year-old boy what he's going through. Not only are they being damaged physically, but you only have one childhood. Do you want to be the fat kid? I'm not using that in a derogatory sense. I'm using that as like, that's these children lose their childhood. It's heartbreaking.
Well, and what's even more heartbreaking when you look at the data on self-efficacy and some of the other, when essentially a child is, because I was an overweight child, and it wasn't because, I mean, that was more a function of there's just some genetic factors. Then I hit my growth, and I couldn't have been in a more, the high performance household is really what I grew up in, as far as health, from the way we ate to. But it was in my genes to be a little chubbier when I was a kid, and then I hit my growth and went from there. But the one of the tolls is that feeling of not being in control. When a youngster comes from an environment where they don't understand that, well, there is something you can do about this, and you can exercise. There's ways you can eat. And luckily I grew up in that environment, but they found is with self-efficacy, when a child essentially at a young age has almost take their hands off the steering wheel, and from a family, their mom and dad are overweight, they've seen this cycle to their whole family. They just figure, well, this is where I'm at. I have no control over this. I don't like the way I feel. I don't like really anything about my situation. And that's unfortunate. And the social ramifications, I mean, it's a truth, and it's unfortunate that in our society there is judgments based on that. But it is a reality. But what concerns me even more is what it does, even individually, to the thought process of overweight children. They don't like to be that way. It's uncomfortable. And it makes them feel like a lack of control. And anytime we feel loss of control in our life, there's a negative correlation with our happiness. And the light at the end of the tunnel here, though, and the good news is that it's like I talked about, the attitudes at home, and things as simple as having children eat meals with the parents most days of the week. So they can eat at least one meal a day with the parents most meals of the week, particularly with dinner. Their likelihood of eating healthier food, eating more vegetables, eating not as many processed foods, not eating fast food, the probability of having better habits is significantly increased. And there's research on that, and the exact percentages of each, I have to refer to the exact data, but they're increased. The likelihood of depression, drug use, or early drug use, early alcohol use, suicide, to early pregnancy, all of these other things that negatively can impact their life, the odds of those are significantly decreased just by interacting as a family for one meal a day, on an average of at least one meal a day. I think it was at least 7, but it's 7 to 11 meals a week. You can significantly impact that. And this is simple stuff. It's not a matter of buying a family pass to a gym. It's a matter of changing the attitudes and behaviors in the house and prioritizing, say, hey, what is this family going to stand for? We're going to stand for health. And like anything else you stand for, if you stand for integrity, if you stand for honesty, if you stand for community, whatever you stand for in the house, your behavior is going to back that up. And health is a very, it's something that is worth standing for in your house.
Certainly something that is worth standing for, Brett. And I'm curious, what are your thoughts on, certainly especially with the Michelle Obama, for example, with the Let's Move campaign, there's definitely been a push, and even by Coca-Cola and Kellogg's and many of these edible product manufacturers to promote more movement among children. However, they do so on the back of a sugary cereal box, or they present their chocolate milk as fuel so that you can go play. Yeah. What are your thoughts on this approach?
Well, quite frankly, it's a nightmare. I respect I don't know that I can say I truly respect the notion, because they know that the data on the amount of sugar consumed and the effect of our diet on our health is there. It's bold. It's not movement impacts, but what our kids eat, how that can physiologically manipulate how they gain their health, is that data is there, and no one with any form of education, these companies know what they're doing. But again, we are in a capitalist society. It's a matter of supply and demand. If we look at sugar cereals, we can blame sugar cereals all day. But as a family, if we can educate ourselves as a family and look at that and say, okay, they're going to make sugar cereals, which are unhealthy, and they can paint whatever picture they want to on there. Oh, you need to be more active, you need to do this, you need to do that. But I still, as a family, can make my decision of whether or not I'm going to give that to my child every day. Because if my child tries sugar cereal, it is not going to kill them. If my child I got to choose, when I was a child, I got to choose a sugar cereal when we went camping. Just because I wanted to. I was a kid. I'd seen it. I wanted to choose it. The rest of the time, Mom made breakfast. Breakfast was available at home. Because my parents made that decision. We're not going to have that in our house, because you can't look at something that is full of sugar and an ingredients list that's 30 ingredients long with one food item, and it's wheat usually, one food item. How could we think that that is something that's going to benefit our children? And the companies know it. It's a PR campaign. And we just need to understand that's what it is. And we need to make better decisions. Because if we make decisions that sugar cereal is not what our kids are going to eat in our home, well, then these companies that make the sugar cereals will manipulate and they will change how they do business because they want to stay in business.
A great example of that, Brett. You hit the nail on the head there where it is just supply and demand is gluten-free. Now, I'm not here to make any statements about pro or con gluten, but there has been a sharp rise in the demand for gluten-free products, and there's been a sharp increase in the supply of gluten-free products, right?
Absolutely. Well, think of the economics of that. I was watching TV just last night, and I saw Yoplait did their commercial, and they no longer use high fructose corn syrup. And because everyone said, hey, we don't want high fructose corn syrup. And here nor there, whether that's the way to go or it's not the way to go, well, the supply, the demand spoke. And so someone over at Yoplait made that unfortunate phone call to the corn syrup supplier, said, hey, you know how we buy 100,000 gallons of that from you a year? Yeah, well, this year we're buying 0. Yeah, that's significant. That's a big decision. But they made it because they needed to stay in business. And that we are in charge as the consumer. So people say, oh, well, marketing drives consumer behavior. Well, an educated consumer drives all market behavior. So if we take more accountability for our households, that's where we're going to actually make an impact here. Instead of sitting back and saying, oh, it's the sugar cereal's fault. Well, then how does sugar cereal get into your house?
And certainly, if at the end of the day, if we need to ask ourselves, is it up to edible product manufacturers or is it up to me? It's pretty clear which of those is more empowering.
Yes.
Bottom line, like maybe people can think whatever they want about which is actually true, but I think it's pretty clear on which is more empowering. Because if we have to wait on the world to change, well, we might be waiting a long time.
Exactly. Well, be the change. Be the change you want to see.
I love it, Brett. Well, this is phenomenal stuff, Brett. What is next for you? Because you're out there. You're the IDEA Personal Trainer of the Year. You're helping families transform their lives and their health. What do you have planned next?
Well, the next step, obviously, this year I have a lot of speaking engagements pretty much all over the world planned. But my big thing is starting my family. Starting in about 7 weeks, I have my first child on the way, so that's going to be a big impact for me. And then moving forward from that, I'll be starting a new website based on the high performance household. Based on all the factors that the website's going to be full of research. It's going to be full of different opportunities for learning from anywhere from the parent to the physical educator. I currently am working with physical education programs using some of the government PEP grant money to change PE curriculum so that it's more relevant and valued for the needs of today's youth. And I actually just got back on Friday from Wisconsin. And it's starting to get some government attention because of the drastic shift and sort of how we've manipulated curriculum to be more eye-opening, more of value to parents. So PE is less likely to go on the chopping block. And so that's going to be something in the next year I'm going to be putting a lot of time and a lot of my passion into. But the website is going to be and that's going to launch most likely in late November as I'm putting together the database. There'll be videos and research. And so if you're involved with children, if you're an adult, it really is not just going to be for this is what children need to do. It's anywhere from mom and dad, how we can improve everyone in the family and how that dynamic interacts to create that high-performance household. So I'm really excited. This next year is going to be a big year, and I'm excited.
Well, certainly much to be excited about, Brett, and hopefully maybe you could have like a vodcast about the little Klika and how now you're practicing, you're being forced to practice what you preach here, and
exactly. Believe me, that's in the plans. Whether or not my wife approves, it will be about that.
That's right. Well, you get a little new web reality show, keeping it real with the Klikas or something like that.
There you go. I like that.
Oh, well,
I like that.
Brett, thank you so much. And before the new website comes out, folks, you can learn much more about Brett at his current website, which is brettklika.com. Let me spell that for you really quick. It's B as in boy, RETTKLIKA, brettklika.com. And Brett, is your new website going to be at the same URL or a different one?
It'll be a different URL, but as with anything like my book, the Underground Workout Manual is accessible. I actually have a free trial for that up on my website right now. People just enter their contact info, it gets sent to them. But information for that will be on my website, so I'll keep people updated as to when it's going to launch. And then it'll be at a different URL because it's going to be a very, very unique. There's nothing else out there like it right now, and so it's going to be a unique resource for pretty much anyone with a family that's looking to make those reprioritizations for health.
The message of setting priorities and certainly a noble and empowering message. Brett, thank you so much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
Listeners, I hope you enjoyed today's show as much as I did. Again, that's Brett Klika, BRETTKLIKA.com. And please remember, this week and every week after, eat smarter, exercise smarter, and live better. Talk with you soon.
Wait, don't stop listening yet. If you like the podcast and if there's other ways we can help you, please join us in the Smarter Science of Slim support group, which is freely available at the Smarter Science of Slim website, smarterscienceofslim.com. There you'll find all kinds of free recipes and success stories and just all kinds of fun stuff, like how to help your kids go sane and just great community content.
And just one last thing before you go, if you wouldn't mind heading over to iTunes and up onto Amazon.com and leaving us a review, and then going over to Facebook and liking us, we would hugely appreciate it.